Hello and welcome to Breezy Chatter. Today I'm going to be talking about the bold and the beautiful. But first I'd like to say thank you for all of those who have subscribed to my channel. So let's get started. First I want to talk about Ridge and Brooke. Ridge can be seen showering Brooke with compliments, telling her that he's totally supportive of her and how he admires how honest she is, especially at the AA meetings and how she's sharing her experience with strangers, and he doesn't think he could do something like that. So he really thinks what she's doing is commendable. So while they're talking, Hope comes in and she intrudes on their conversation. And Ridge seems to be on his way out, but he does ask Hope to please convince Brooke to not be so hard on herself. So after Ridge leaves, Brooke and Hope are talking, and Brooke tells her daughter that it's time to tell the truth. Meanwhile, Taylor knows what happened with Brooke and Deacon, or at least part of the story. And Brooke's behavior is starting to make sense to Taylor. Steffy would like to break the news to her dad, but Taylor thinks it's best if she speak with Ridge. Taylor stays at the Cliff House, and Steffy goes to Brooke's house to give her a piece of her mind. So we have Steffy at Brooke's, and she's bringing up how Brooke is not trustworthy and how her father deserves better. And she feels that it's well within her rights to question Brooke's loyalty. And she's being very cryptic. She's not saying, I know what happened. I know that Deacon spent the night. So Brooke doesn't really understand where all of this rudeness is coming from, because Steffy was quite rude. And after a while, Brooke had had enough and she told Steffy to leave. Meanwhile, Taylor is having an extremely difficult time explaining to Ridge that Deacon spent the night with Brooke on New Year's Eve. And while Taylor does manage to inform Ridge, Ridge is having a hard time believing it. Ridge is in total denial. When Taylor explains that Douglas saw Brooke kissing Deacon, he believes that Steffy and Thomas were sort of influencing or encouraging Douglas's story. He refuses to believe that his wife would have any involvement with Deacon. Taylor did find out that Brooke was drinking on New Year's Eve. So Taylor feels that that also sort of explains her behaviors. She's struggling to convince him that it is the truth. She just says, why don't you go speak to your wife? And Ridge says, that's exactly what I'll do. So he leaves and he's headed to Brooke's. Meanwhile, we have Liam and Hope talking, and Hope reveals to Liam that Brooke is going to tell Ridge the truth. And Liam can't help but feel that all of this could have been avoided if Deacon just had not come back into the picture. And Liam says that he knows that Ridge is going to be really hurt. The drinking is one thing, but to actually find out that Deacon was lying in his bed, Liam compared that to a gut punch. And of course, while Liam's saying that, Deacon happens to walk in. Deacon wants to know what's going on, and they do inform him that Brooke is going to tell Ridge. And of course, Deacon believes that's a bad idea, and he claims he doesn't want to come between Brooke and Ridge, and Liam doesn't believe him. So now we have Ridge coming home to Brooke. Although he doesn't want to believe what Taylor has said, I think a part of him does know that it's true. Of course, Brooke, she's really anxious to tell Ridge everything that's happened, and Ridge is all ears. So she explains, and of course Ridge's first reaction is that Deacon must have spiked her drink, because there's no way she would kiss him under any other circumstances. Brooke, she does defend Deacon, and she says that Deacon told her that she shouldn't drink. He tried to stop her, but she was very insistent. She explained the Santa hat. She said they thought it would be funny. He had it on his head. Ridge, he looks hurt by the whole situation, and he sort of tells Brooke that. He says, you let me down. I'm hurt. But you're my Logan. You're the love of my life. So that leads all the viewers to believe that Ridge has no intentions on leaving Brooke. What he's going to do is place all of the blame on Deacon, and he does leave the house, but he does give Brooke some hope by saying, you're the love of my life, you're my Logan. And she is hopeful, although she is ashamed. I think she does believe that they can get past this. Next, I want to talk about Sheila and Deacon. Sheila finally convinces Deacon to tell her everything that happened on New Year's Eve. And once Sheila finds out, she relishes in Brooke's despair. While she goes off on a rant about how Brooke has wronged her and how Brooke is trying to come between her and her son and her grandson, Deacon is watching with a look of concern. And even earlier this week, Sheila did not have kind words for Brooke when she was talking to Finn. And Finn caught on quickly and he asked her what she was talking about. And she sort of played it off. Sheila is eventually going to give herself away as she goes on these rants talking about how much she despises Brooke. And I'm just wondering how long it will take before Taylor, Finn, or Deacon realizes that Sheila played a part in Brooke's drinking. And next we have Deacon, and he's working at Il Giardino. He's in the storage room, and Ridge comes in there and sucker punches him and tells him to get up. So we know next week there's going to be a big fight between Ridge and Deacon. And let's not forget that earlier when Sheila was talking to Deacon, Deacon said he would knock Ridge out. And he also said he'd like to knock him down a peg or 10. So we know that this is going to be quite the fight. Remember, Deacon is a martial artist, so Ridge better watch out. Ridge better watch out because Deacon has skills. So we will see what happens there. Let's also talk a little bit about Grace and Carter and Paris. So we know that Carter let Paris down. He told her that he can no longer see her for obvious reasons. And of course, Grace finds out and she calls Carter and she says, "Oh, so you did what I told you. You're staying away from my daughter." And Carter says yes. And he said he was doing it for Paris's benefit. He didn't want to come between her and her career. And Grace, of course, told him, "That's fine. I'm glad you're seeing things my way, but I'll be watching you." Grace doesn't waste any time reminding Carter that he needs to continue to stay away from Paris and that she will be watching him. So I just wonder how long it's going to take for Paris to find out that her mother had a hand in Carter deciding against their relationship. And next I want to talk about Taylor, Thomas, and Steffy. So Taylor and Steffy are at the Cliff House and they're talking about the Brooke and Ridge situation. When Thomas comes in and he's all excited and he's like, "Okay, are we going to tell Dad now?" And Steffy says, "Mom already told him." And he looks a little disappointed because I think he wanted in on the reveal, but no, Taylor took care of it. I think it was best that the writers had Taylor tell him because it's more believable from her versus Thomas and Steffy, who have been bashing Brooke left and right. So Taylor does reveal to her kids that Brooke fell off the wagon. And Taylor also said, of course, she's going to use the alcohol as an excuse. She's going to blame it on the alcohol, and Ridge is probably going to forgive her. And Steffy doesn't see how Ridge can forgive what Brooke has done this time. But Taylor reminds them that Brooke always finds a way to be forgiven. She always finds a way to wiggle out of trouble. And I think Taylor got a little upset at the thought of Brooke getting away with it once again. And she told her kids, well, not this time. And she leaves and she's headed to Brooke's place. So while Ridge is in the storage closet with Deacon, we have Taylor now at Brooke's place. And she's giving Brooke a piece of her mind. And she's telling Brooke that she's well aware of what she's done with Deacon. And that was this week's installments of The Bold and the Beautiful. And they were so exciting. And I think next week is going to be even more exciting because we have 3 confrontations, 3 showdowns to look forward to next week. We have the continuation of Brooke and Taylor talking, or should I say arguing, because you know they're going to argue. And then we have Ridge, who sucker punched Deacon. And let's see what Deacon's response is to being sucker punched. And then we have, according to the spoilers, Steffy and Hope arguing about this situation. So I'm so looking forward to next week's showdowns. I hope you guys are too. That is my commentary. If you liked it, hit like, subscribe, and leave comments. Thank you for your time. Until next time. Ta ta.